warrior's mindset is about conditioning the mind, body, and spirit. It takes practice, commitment, vision, goal setting, determination, sharp focus, respect, and discipline. Once you learn it, you can apply it to all aspects of your life. The warrior's mindset prepares you for the largest competition ever, the competition against self.
That was the warrior. I mean, that was the warrior's mindset. That's what we were talking about. I mean, when we think of that term, the warrior's mindset, how do you describe how you apply that in your everyday life and have applied it up to this point now in your life?
Wow, I'm sure that the warrior mindset can be interpreted by many people for individuals, right? So from what I understand as a warrior mindset is you really have to dedicate your life to what you think is truth. Mm-hmm. You know, so in order to know what is truth, because there's so many realities out there, you know, so many things coming from the media, your family, culture, politicians telling you what is truth. But until you do the research actually and understand for yourself what is the truth of the world and your reality, you can't really embark on what's important, what you want to create with your life in this world. So until you make those research and understand the truth of your reality, and it will change as you go on, but you need a seed of truth. You need a seed of the most accurate truth as possible in order for it to grow. So once it starts growing, it's going to sprout branches and leaves. And again, like I said, open these pathways, and you're going to decide which ones to take. But if that seed is full of truth, every branch is going to be a beautiful life in itself. You know, so you just kind of like make sure you plant the right seed, the seed of truth, and then just meditate on that. Your meditation is water. Every morning, take a few deep breaths before you get up. What am I doing in this life? Why am I here? Where did I wake up? Who made my bed? You know, when you ask those questions, you can decide where you're going to go with that. And you just have to come up with that basic truth, and your life will guide itself. You know, it's like a weed. You have to trust. But again, the most important thing is discovering what that seed of truth is.
Education is very smart. It is a very smart thing to pursue. It's probably one of the greatest investments that you can make in life. But in order to invest in education, you have to have a couple of things, and these are things that some people don't have. You know, one is money. To go to a higher institution, you need money, and if you don't have it, you know, you may not have the opportunity to go to a school of your choice. The other investment that you have to make is commitment. If you're not committed to learning because you know it all, or you think you know it all, and people don't know what they don't even know, you're not you know, going to expand the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge that is out there. I mean, I learn something new every day. Every single day you learn something. And as I said, you cannot learn by speaking. You can only learn by listening. So, you know, on the money front, and, you know, again, you know, you and I, you know, you had more challenges than I did growing up. I had the challenge of being an immigrant with parents who didn't speak English and who didn't know how this, you know, world worked. You know, other than, you know, working for hourly wages and my parents having to, you know, put food on the table for their kids. And, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of money to go to college. So, you know, there are programs to apply to, and that's part of your commitment, you know, get what you can get, student loans, student grants. And if you're not going to go to college, you know, go to a trade school, you know, learn a skill. You know, martial arts teachers, very few of us through martial arts are rich in the pocketbook, but we're rich up here, you know, and which is what we can spread. You can make a living, you know, doing martial arts, but you're not going to be, you know, riding around in your yacht and flying a private airplane. But the people you teach and the wisdom that you lay upon them may get them to be that billionaire or to, have that yacht and fly around in private jets, because you're instilling in them the qualities of a martial arts champion, which translate into the qualities of a life champion.
On the same path. When we first talked, we talked about we on the same path, man.
Right.
How is that so important?
I think unless I didn't hear it correctly, because like I said, brother, I'm still breathing from this 5K, right? I haven't watered up, I haven't ate anything yet, because this interview is more important to me than doing that at this moment. And I think you left out the main cue, because what you listed, some people can bring that, quite a few. But one thing everybody can't bring to the table that you and I can bring is lived experience on the streets, real lived experience, real. The jail, the streets, not, I ran away for 2 weeks and I experienced the streets. And no. We're talking the authentic youth crime prevention, right? So one of the things that I admire about you, and I prejudge. People talk about, don't judge. I mean, it's human nature. Like, you got to judge whether to go right, left, wake up, not wake up, right? I judge all the time, right? But I understand the criteria of what they mean about judging, right? I was like, okay, traditional martial artist, that's what I expected, a brother of honor, discipline. But when I met you and heard you speak and heard you train some of your kids and listened to some of your numerous videos in the past, before we went out to Maryland and DC to meet you, I was amazed at that. You're a traditional martial artist of the highest caliber, of the black belt caliber, been around all the movie stars, been around all that, and you still were able to be authentic and say, don't let this gi stuff fool you on what really goes on in the streets, because you'll get your behind tore up thinking all this gonna work in there on them streets. And that's so important, because it was like the MMA revolution. Sometimes traditional arts get lost up in the point system. And forget that crap. You ain't hitting somebody one time and a referee saying break, and then you're going back to another corner, right? And sometimes, you got to know how. And what I love about what you do, brother, you're able to distinguish the traditional arts, the sport of it, and the self-defense aspect. And even, to be honest, even a great majority of the MMA schools have lost that. It's so focused on the sport right now that, let me give you an example. Like, for anybody saying, oh, he's hating on the MMA. I'm not hating. That's what I do, the mixed martial arts. That's what I teach the kids. MMA. I don't teach them karate. I don't teach them jujitsu. I teach them MMA, right? To the best of my ability. And I got great assistant coaches. But if you're putting somebody in a triangle, and I'm mentioning this because this happened to me, right? There's not a lot of MMA schools that prepared students for what I'm about to tell you. And this was a self-defense situation. You put somebody in a triangle to put them to sleep or break their arm or whatever. And we're talking self-defense, right? You want to go to the max. You want to put them to sleep. You don't want to kill them, but you want to put them to sleep. And what happens when you got them in a triangle and they take their teeth and they bite down on your chest while they're locked in your triangle? Basically, they're not going anywhere. What do you do then? Right? See, I had to do by instinct. I'm not going to mention it right now. I'm not trying to give the game away to everybody. I just want to prove a point, right, to people that even the MMA schools are back at that point. All right, bye. The girls leaving. Let me.
Your potential, right? And at the end of the day, all of this is for someone, is for a cause, not because. It's not for, no one's gift is for themselves. Everyone's gift is to give, right? Give. And that's what it's about: giving opportunity, giving, creating awareness, giving access to not just individuals, but information, education, right? Exposure, facilitation, so that you can be, or for those who are interested in this, can be the next leaf, the next branch, right? In martial arts, we talk about each one, teach one. Well, that has to do with investing in people's lives. And I believe that's what we do at the Urban Action Showcase. We invest in lives, we invest in dreams, we invest in hopes, because the Bible that I read says, without a vision, my people perish. He said, write the vision on the wall and make it plain. You see, that vision has to be clear. You've got to write it down. You've got to make it plain, because you need a focus point, something to see. See, the sun gives you a point of focus, that light. Every single tree, every single vine reaches for the light. There's a focus point.
Well, the one thing I can't say about that focus, I remember when we first started working together, I said, hey, Master Demetrius, let's go. Can you come to this event? You're like, nah, Master Bam, I got to stay focused on my event. And I was like, can you come to this event? Nah, Master Beb, I gotta stay focused on my event. No, can you come to this event? Nah, Master Beb, I got. And I think that's what a lot of times, especially artistic people, sometimes we get scattered. You know, we lose focus on that one little focus point of balance where we know if we can get this, then we can see how all those other things come into play. And I think what you're saying now, because you did remain focused at the beginning, now you can speak about all these other big things that are now coming into play, especially at a time when most people are like, man, I can't go forward. I'm losing my business. You're having a success during a time of a pandemic where most people don't know what to do. I mean, how important is that focus? I mean, I know you mentioned it, but what do you do daily to remain focused? I mean, when all these wonderful roses and blings and dollar bills and people and especially in this industry come flying by and trying to sweep you off your feet, how do you remain focused?
Well, like I said, personally, you know, the word of God is what grounds me, because it gives me purpose, it gives me clarity, it gives me understanding. And when you have that, it's not hard to focus. I believe the problem is not that people can't focus, they can't see, is that they cannot respond, because there's until there is action, right? Everything is just an idea.
Right. So, and I mean, you just because that concept is so universal, and we can put any name on it. If you would describe personally what the warrior's mindset means to you, how would you describe the warrior's mindset?
Wow. I mean, that means so much to me, the warrior's mindset, because I think a warrior has to be compassionate, has to be forgiving, has to be strong, um, has to be resilient. So it's more than just, strong in the battle. It's encompasses so much more to me than just that. But yeah, I mean, it's a list of tools in your toolbox to be a warrior, and it's resiliency and compassion and forgiveness and motivation and indomitable spirit. It's all those things, in my opinion, and knowing when you need those tools, which is the stuff we all work on, right? When do we use those tools? When do we need them?
So that seemed to be something that you've been a part of your life since you entered in. I mean, I think you mentioned it before, starting off in the martial arts at a young age. How did you think that? Well, one, of course, what you just said with your dad and how your family was all about that spirit as well. But how did that manifest in your beginning in the days of starting in martial arts? And what made you get started in the martial arts?
Well, first of all, I was just extremely, extremely fortunate that my parents didn't set any limitations for me.
Called Furies, which is a sequel to Fury, which is a movie that was very successful. It's on Netflix. It actually was the most successful Vietnamese movie of all time. Again, blessings to the universe. And I'm also at the same time producing a documentary about Bruce Lee, which I can't talk. We're doing that kind of a little bit. You know the details, but I'm like keeping it a little on the down low at the moment because we're still in the process of doing it. But it's been a great, enjoyable challenge for me that I would be shooting nights here in Chinatown, Saigon, come back to my apartment here, go online and Zoom produce a shoot in Hong Kong for the Bruce Lee project, and then come back and get ready to shoot that night in Chinatown. So, I am old, but I'm probably looking even older today than I otherwise would. How old are you now, Willie?
Today's my birthday. I'm 57.
Oh, get out of here. And how old are you?
57.
Get him. Well, I got like 3 years on you, but we're all alive and kicking and taking names. So it's all good. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
We went from Diva Grip to now your new approach to a future podcast and movement that you're bringing about. How has your testimony became a manifestation of your brand, your personal brand?
So my new thing coming out, and I haven't put it out yet, it's called Dear Diary, Dear Universe. We write everything in our diary that we want to tell everybody or the universe. So that's going to be my new talk show kind of thing, podcast and YouTube and so on and so on. Dear Diary, Dear Universe. And I wanted to do, a blog and a podcast and stuff, but I didn't even wholeheartedly grasp it because I was searching for a name for a while, and I told my husband, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. And it finally just came to me. It's going to be Dear Diary, Dear Universe. That's where we write all of our everything, in our journals, in our diaries. And that's what I want the show to entail is everything, let's just put it out on the table. Let's free ourselves from it. So my journey brought me to that because, and to this day, I had it kind of rough growing up. I've come across a couple things. I was molested very young by a very close family member repeatedly. And then when I came to a person that I thought I could tell about it, I was physically beaten and abused. Like, no, that didn't happen. Don't you dare say that. And I was beaten for it. And then when I threatened the person that was molesting me to tell him that I was going to tell another person that I knew would take care of the situation, he stopped molesting me and went to a younger family member. So that's where, I had to overcome that at such a young age. And I never had a mom or a mother figure in my life. I grasped onto another female, and she was there as much as she could be for me as a mother figure. But it was very difficult to overcome that. And I was very alone for the longest time with that. And so that, I guess, really built the toughness for me for everything else that was to come in my life.
I mean, that's the change in the dynamics of running a professional sport or school. You got to give the consumers what they want. How would you relate that to your fight league? Giving the fans what they want.
Yeah, so I would definitely relate that because the fight league, my league, we're more of like an open weight. So there are fights where somebody will never get to see a Willie the Bam Johnson and a Hakeem Walker fight, right? Because Willie the Bam was a lightweight, Hakeem was a heavyweight. But we can make that possible. It's like a fantasy fight.
Oh, okay.
Right, and you would never get to see certain fighters like let's see, maybe Raymond Daniels versus who's a small type fighter? Let's say Robbie Lavoie, a little short guy or whatever. You don't get to see those fights, so we can make those things happen. And the difference between us two and why people are really interested is because we do 3 rounds, 2 minutes. So you really call yourself the best. 3 rounds, 2 minutes, we really get to see like who's gonna be the best. Because in a tournament, let's be honest, you fly out of state, right? And you get 1 round, 2 minutes. It's win or go home, basically. So no, let's get multiple rounds and let's really see who's the best. Let's see whose endurance is intact, stamina, who got the smarts, who got the survival. And what's really unique about us, we do it in a cage. So there's no such thing as I'm out of bounds. So that's the uniqueness about our events. And we also do women, and we do juniors. So everybody's getting love. So, it gets the families, you get your aunts, your uncles. I think we're bridging a gap with non-martial artists and building a fan base. Because now we got Willie the Bam fighting that hasn't did martial arts before. I'm just using you. Right. And then your auntie, your cousin, because you're promoting an event, all your friends, your family, we're highlighting the athlete. And they wanna see, oh, my nephew's having a big fight. Every guys come on, support. and now we're creating a fan base.
I mean, the move ahead. I mean, those moments, that time, the time when you were like one of the best kata competitors in the world. I mean, what was the Warriors' drive? That we talk about the Warriors' mindset, but when I think of that era of competition, we challenged one another, man. It was like it was real combat. It wasn't no imaginary, like, oh, let me do a performance. And I'm not putting down anything that I see today, but we were in real battle. It was like if you went up and you didn't work hard so you can get me pumped up, I was disappointed, man. Like, talk to me, Gabe. What was that like? And even in fighting, what was that Warriors mindset like for you during that time?
So one thing that did help me a lot is, well, my upbringing. I came from an old school environment. I had that Karate Kid type training with my Mr. Miyagi. At 15, I ran into my sensei, Morio Higona. I started to train with him. He was an 8th degree black belt, straight off of coming from Japan, Okinawa, and the kind of like training that we did was nothing to do with like competition. It was just training, and that was my root of my foundation of, I feel, why my katas were so real. And not only that, but I also spent a lot of time around the great Tadashi Yamashita growing up. And he was an amazing showman. Besides just an amazing martial arts, I first saw him on the Chuck Norris movie, The Octagon. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Okay,
But
yes.
Tadashi was a showman, man. His martial arts was like you saw a fight happening when he was doing his self-defense or when he was working his weapons. It wasn't just a form, it was a fight. And I mirrored that. So I had so many great role models, Bam, growing up that it kind of molded me to the type of martial arts or the type of martial arts performance that I did back then. There was another gentleman, Ted Tabora. He had one of the best. He had one of the best demo teams around. It's kind of like being around the Ernie Reyes demo team. These guys, they put on shows, and I always wanted that kind of like image or that kind of like persona. So when I went out there, I put on, it was showtime. It was like it was a kata, but it was also a fight. I didn't let people forget that it is a fight that you're going through. You're not just, it's an imaginary fight, so the more real that you can make that, then the more it was. Man, I was a martial arts nerd and a half. Growing up, most kids had whatever they had in their closet. I had all my ninja stars. I had all my swords. I had every kind of weapon around. So between that and Karate Illustrated, Black Belt magazine, I was so engulfed. Even what's funny is even the kung fu movies back in the day. When I was like 13, 14. I was imitating one of these kung fu movies, Challenge of the Ninja. I put the crab technique in my weapons form.
Oh yeah, that's I know, man. Yeah, the Chinese. It was the kung fu guy goes up against the Japanese style, right? He married the Japanese girl.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
One of the greatest movies, I think. It was like one of these like movies, like, well, you hear the. That's often though, the translations are kind of all messed up, but you hear Challenge of the Ninja, but you're absolutely right. That was a great movie. They brought over some people from Japan and they put together a great movie. But I, seeing those movies growing up, another great one that for me that kind of like influenced me a lot was the Shogun Assassin.
Mind, body, and spirit. Because a lot of times we talk about the mind and we talk about the body, but without the chi and the ki, it's kind of hard to have the flow. How do those three things really intertwine into the Warriors mindset?
Yeah, well, it's something that our society now doesn't really teach. I think one of the few areas that you can get those skills is through martial arts. So if I go back to our school, for instance, our Kempo school, we do a 24-hour black belt grading. And people go, wow, 24-hour black belt grading. Why do you do that? Well, it's to teach those things. You might have learnt your skills. I mean, if you're doing a black belt grading, you've learnt the skills. You've probably already demonstrated them in class. But have you demonstrated them under immense pressure? Have you demonstrated them to a point where you've got to go beyond your body's capabilities? I mean, I know some of your background. I know that you will say skills are great, but if you can't do them under pressure, if you can't do them in that instance, then what good are they to you? And I remember we had a school at one point that was very focused on sports karate, and they were great in the ring, but get them out of the ring, not so great. Right. So it comes down to when we do our 24-hour black belt grading, we do that so that we can stress them by not letting them sleep. Right. We stress them by continual physical overload. They're not doing a class and having an hour break. They get 2 hours tops break in that whole 24 hours. Right. And it's about breaking them down so that you can build them up and push them through their physical and mental barriers. And that, I think, is what you're talking about with the warrior's mindset. Where do you learn that in society, except in a martial arts school?
Then, I mean, everyone motivated one another. I mean, I think sometimes we look in society today and you don't see iron sharpening iron. And we need iron to sharpen iron in order for us to achieve greatness. And I think that's what competition and even the TV show was like. There were no egos. Everybody was uplifting one another. I mean, people still ask me that question. They say, man, what was it like for being on a TV show with so many great martial artists? I said, there was no egos, man. Everybody just wanted each other to look good. I mean, how would you describe such a unique experience at that moment, Chris, during those times?
Well, you know, hindsight, they say, is always 20/20. So looking back on it, you know, first of all, the fighting and the action and stuff that we're doing, like, it literally was no work. When you are working with a group of talented people who you don't have to worry about if they're going to hit you on accident or if they're not good enough to do a move that you want to do, like, there was none of that. It was like, all right, we're going to do this, this, this. And then the other guy would go, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And we go, okay, I'll do this. So that part of it was ultra cool. And I mean, it was such a blessing. You know, looking back on it, the only fights we had when we were on there was who had more lines in the show. Like, we would fight over that constantly. Like, hey, he's got 8 lines. I only have 4 in this episode, which was stupid, like, at the time. But you know, you're young and it's kind of cool. But being on the show with you and Richie, Hakeem, and Mike and Herb and all those guys, I mean, it was just, we had some of the best times of my life happened on those, you know, 2-3 years that we were working on that show.
I mean, you guys are people like you are in a position to take what we're trying to do to a whole new level, be it the film world, be it the martial arts world, but we all got to work hand in hand. All right, everybody, Willie the Bam Johnson here, Warrior Mindset. You know how we do it. It's all about tapping into the mind, body, and the spirit so we can overcome all the obstacles and pitfalls of the world today. It's not about a kick, it's not about a punch, but it's about courage, it's about integrity, the things that are missing in society today. And when we talking on this Warrior's Mindset, it's about getting real. It's about really talking about, realistic situations, coming up with solutions to be able to move things forward. So what we always like to do, we like to start off by having our guests come on and, give a brief little intro, tell them about what you're doing. First of all, tell them about the website.
What's going on, peoples? My name is Jordan Kahn. I operate and run a website, urban media publication called Black Action Stars. Basically, just acknowledges, celebrates, and all the Black, colored, African, Afro people within the world that are killing it within the action and martial arts realm, particularly in the realm of film. We do a lot. We do attract a lot of stunt guys, people who just doing it all across the film world. And outside of that, I am an actor and martial artist and filmmaker myself. And I'm constantly out there doing my thing. Got 2 or 3 films out there we could talk about a little later. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So
that is correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Children's book.
Yes, sir. I mean, the history that you bring here, brother, that's what I mean by you I mean, you're like a jewel, man. But even when you go back, when I hear you talking about doing your homework in the school, one of my crazy dreams that I even have right now when I talk about Point MMA and us taking it back to communities like ours that we came up in, I always talk about it as being a cultural arts program. What I heard you talking about are those cultural art programs that saved our lives back in the day when we were coming up.
Yes,
Am I on the same? Can you tell? I don't think people understand it because they took that away from our communities.
they did.
How powerful were those, sir?
Those were extremely powerful. I'm telling you, I was talking with my wife just recently and I said, you know, they need to bring back some of the youth center programs. You know, we used to have a youth center down the street from my home. Excuse me, there were 3 brothers that ran it, and they were hardcore. They would not allow groups of badasses to come into the center and disrupt it because of the people that were there playing cams, doing homework, and they didn't have computers at that time, but they had people that would sit down and teach you and talk with you and mentor you and that type of thing, you know, and that was so important back in the day, man, because we had an outlet. Now we don't have that outlet. We have no, you know, you mentioned about raising and mentoring the youth at that time. I can remember back when we started a karate class in my brother's garage. And all the kids in the neighborhood would come over. We'd have rotations where we'd have 25, 30 guys standing outside of the garage waiting to get in line to do the training that we were teaching and doing. And that was something so special. To this day, I see guys that are in their 50s and they still talk about that and they remember that and they say, man, you know, that saved our lives. That saved my life back in that day, man, because, you know, when you guys had those karate classes, man, we were in those karate classes. It was fun. We had a good time. We didn't have time to go doing all the other stuff and getting in trouble or anything, man. And then we were strict at that time. My brother was very strict because he was older, and he would tell them, look, you guys have to go to class. You can't come and train if you're not going to go to class. Okay, so that was the incentive. All they had to do was go to class or at least be in school. You know, that would keep them out of trouble.
And why do you think, I mean, it just seems like when people look at us coming from those communities or they look at those communities, and we know that that's missing, but I mean, would you agree? I mean, I always tell people, mine came from the respect. That's what my parents taught me, to always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. In the community, we looked out for each other. We could leave our doors unlocked. We shared. We did all the things that, for some reason, when the whole crack epidemic came in, it just robbed our communities of that integrity and those principles that I believe made you who you are, made me who I am. I mean, how important were those jewels? I mean, people look at it like we never had that, like the hood was, we didn't even call it the hood.
Right.
I mean, am I correct, sir?
No, you're 100% correct. The hood wasn't a negative term at that time. It was our like our home. Man, I'm from this hood. This is my neighborhood, man. What are you talking about? You know, it would be 103rd Street playing football in the street against 104th Street. So that was the hood, you know. No, you're 100% right in that regards. I think.
Hey, the warrior's mindset is about conditioning the mind, body, and spirit. It takes practice, commitment, vision, goal setting, determination, sharp focus, respect, and discipline. Once you learn it, you can apply it to all aspects of your life. The warrior's mindset prepares you for the largest competition ever, the competition against self. It shows you how to solve all problems at hand, maintain focus and a peaceful state of mind. We live in a competitive society. We live in a society that right now is fighting back and recovering from COVID-19 and all of the other devastating things that has impacted all of our lives. but we will never quit. Quitting is not an option. So thank you for joining in to this Warriors Mindset broadcast so we can always find a solution on how to step up, flip the script, and be a success in our life, regardless of the obstacles that stand in front